Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today we're going to talk about part two of the 1,500-page drop of information, or released information. I guess it wasn't dropped, it was released, that the Sun newspaper received just a few days ago from our government, specifically from the Department of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And so we're going to talk about, in part one, I talked about some of the things that were on this a specific list of almost, I'm going to call them like symptoms of abductions, and some of the ways in which a close encounter with a alien, either the equipment, the ships, or any other type of aspect of it, or maybe even an alien, and see how that affected human beings. So there's a full list of that, and I already did part of the list. I'm going to finish up the rest of the list today, and compare it to things that I had found over a 25-year period when I was doing my abduction research back, I guess it was in the 80s and 90s primarily. Anyways, so this list, this release of 1,500 pages, it's a huge release. It's a lot of information in there. Like I said in part one, some of it is really juicy and some of it is kind of boring. I didn't get a chance, of course, to read all 1,500 pages. That's a whole lot of reading, but I'm going to try to get through it. I'm sure there'll be people that will try to summarize it, and that's great too. So anyways, this came about between the period of, there was a secret program. The Pentagon had a secret program, and it went from 2007 to 2012. And the secret program came under the letters of ATIP, which I believe means, let's see here, Advanced Aviation Threat ID Program. Okay. And there was a whistleblower. His name was Lou Lizondo. Okay. So I guess what Lou did, he was a former intelligence guy, and he went ahead and brought this back. He brought this back up and said, hey, this is a real thing. The government did this, and there's a lot of documentation. And I guess if somebody wants to go out there and use the Freedom of Information Act, you could. And that's what Sun newspaper did. So they got all these 1,500 documents. So anyways, some of the information in there is pretty profound. I think it was also said that it became so profound that lawmakers and national security agencies became pretty concerned about what they found out in this group. And they also said that the President Obama and President Clinton were also notified of what was going on and the concerns everybody had about this. So this is the real deal. Okay. I mean, I kind of known about it for a very long time, but we never had any confirmation from government agencies that there were some major concerns. Now, do they understand all or any of this? I think they understand a little bit of it, but I don't think anybody really understands it all, because it's the only ones that understand it are the alien groups themselves. So anyways, with that said, let's dive back into the list. And again, I'm going to give you some of the items on their list. These are some of the items that came from a survey or interviews of about 350 to 60 cases of, and some were interviews again, and some were just medical records, etc., that they derived information from to get this list of frequencies of how often that did happen. And again, if you go back to my 1,500, now, you know, I kept journals on everything. I don't really have names of anybody, but I have journals. And I also can go back and have actually looked at it to kind of compare it, my information to theirs, and see how it jives together. Some of it's been right on, pretty close, same percentages of frequency, and the other ones weren't. And I want to just go through a few more. There's a bunch I did in part one. Please go back and watch part one if you haven't already. And you'll pick up some of those items on there. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. The list is very small print. Okay, so there was one of the things on the list was electromagnetic effects on vehicles. Yes, there was probably, it wasn't, well, I take it back. I guess there was quite a few. Everybody that was in a car that felt that they had missing time or were abducted or felt that they were abducted always seemed to have this electronic issue. Either the battery, the car starts sputtering, or the radio kind of went haywire, but all the electrical stuff went nuts. Okay, and typically it stopped. So that's sort of, I guess, if they were aware of what was going on there, they kind of knew something was probably going to go on, especially if they had been abducted before, even if they were abducted at home. They probably had that same kind of eerie feeling that people get. So anyways, yes, I agree. They had 77 out of 100 and out of 360. It's probably a little higher than what I had, but I didn't out of my 1,500 people, I probably had 200 people that talked about vehicle type issues. I actually did have one with a boat, by the way, and they were on their boat at night, and all of a sudden, not that there's a lot of electronics, stuff like a car or anything, but the engine did go out, and the lights, they had some lights, I guess, there, though, they also went out too, and they were just drifting, and then they, kind of lost it. They didn't know what happened, and then they kind of woke up. It seemed to be hours later. So anyways, so the next one is, let's see, heat, and we're going to combine two of them, heat and burns. Okay, and the reason I'm going to combine it, I want to just talk a minute, and I did have some of those in my interviews. People talked about that. There was one person that said he had gotten, he felt he had been abducted. He was taken somewheres, and he knows he was close to the outside of the ship, and he felt that it was glowing. And I guess when he said close, it was a few feet, but he said he did get on one side of his arm that was completely exposed. I don't know if he had short sleeve shirts on or whatever it was. And a little bit on his face, he said he did have a burn, like a real kind of bad sunburn. Anyways, it was just on that side, away from or towards the ship itself. So anyways, talking about that, there was an interesting story about this whistleblower that apparently he had talked to, I guess, one of the pilots, a pilot that had a close encounter with a ship, I guess a flying saucer. And I'm just going to quote a little bit of it here. It says, Lou, the guy's first name is Lewis or Lou. It's really weird. I was flying and got close to this thing and came back home, and it was like a sunburn. I was red for 4 days. And I guess this is Lou talking. Well, it's a sign of radiation. It's not a sunburn. It's a radiation burn. Then the pilot would say, I had gotten a little closer, Lou. I'm at the hospital and I got symptoms that are indicative of microwave damage. I'm meaning internal injuries, and even my brain, they are somewhat morphing. Anyways, he also had a missing time experience. He said, Lou, it's really bizarre. I felt like I was there for only 5 minutes, but when I looked at my watch, it was 30 minutes went by, but I used only 5 minutes of fuel. How is that possible? So he's just questioning this guy. Well, that's the reason for that, we believe, and it probably has to do with the warping of space-time. This is what Lou is telling the pilot. So that was pretty interesting. But anyway, so that's heat and burns. Obviously, if you get too close to the ships, there's a possibility that you can get this radiation kind of poisoning. So, I mean, people that have gone inside the ships and have gotten close to the aliens, I have not ever heard of any kind of burns. It's typically on these from the outside of these ships if you get too close to the outside. And I don't know how too close it really is. Now, I know that the pilot in a plane, even though he's got, he's encased in either some type of a glass and a metal shell, and he was probably flying, so it's hard to tell how close that is. That could be 50 feet, 100 feet at the closest, you would think. But anyways, people that have been out walking and encountered a ship or something, got too close, seem to possibly have gotten some of these burns. So, okay, going down the list, significant sound effects. Yes, this is one I got a lot. I got like, oh Jesus, I'm trying to think here. A lot of the people had this. I don't want to say most of them, but quite a few of them. I always remember they would talk about noises in their ears, humming noises. There's people that were outside and they heard these like hummingbirds, like really intense, close to their ears, or bees, and they're walking somewheres and they seem to like become unconscious. Or having an abduction type experience, I guess it was. But there was a lot of that, there really was. And this feeling I talked about before, of it's more than just a feeling. It was always a little bit of a sound in the ear. People would lay in their beds and they almost, they panic a little bit. Those are the people that were, had insomnia. They couldn't go to sleep because they were always waiting for that noise to come, or that feeling noise, whatever you want to call it. These noises in the ears or sound effects were pretty significant. Psychological, emotional shock, intense fear. Some of the aliens, if you encounter them, could put you into a shock situation. Some of them are pretty creepy. And it also would have to do with their ability to kind of calm you down. And I'll talk about the calming down a little later, but some of them seem to have a ability to do this, and others don't. Maybe they have their own reasons why they don't do that. So, okay, let's see what else. Force field impact. Well, that's an interesting one because they have like 20 here on this list out of 300 and some. 20 frequencies, but I've never heard of that. I mean, I understand what they're talking about, the force field, but I cannot say that any of the people ever talked about going and walking up into a force field, not able to walk any farther or not get out of a force field. Never did, never at all. So, sensation of cold. Yeah. There were some people that did talk about they were, just before the abduction, they would get this very cold kind of feeling on their skin. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Weakness and fatigue. Yeah, after an abduction session, some people can't get out of bed for a couple of days. It's pretty. Some of the most profound ones. Some people seem to be able to brush it off and move on with life, which is the way you should do it. You want to be able to do that. Just get back on the horse and move on. Because if you happen to be one of the people that are going to be abducted over and over again, unfortunately, you're going to have to kind of figure this out. Okay. Let's see. Significant odors. People would, before an abduction, sometimes they'd smell roses. Sometimes they'd smell lilacs. Just a bunch of things. Or they'd be walking outside or in their house, and they smell mainly good smells that they shouldn't have. I'm saying? There was no reason to have this smell around you because the house there was no flowers around, there were no good smells around, so that was also one of the items. Let's see, what else? Dizziness. Yes, dizziness. Definitely was dizziness. And a lot of the people, for me, not so much here. Dizziness, they showed, 5 or 6 out of 300. Dehydration is an interesting one. I found that over the years, people would tell me, and some of them I would ask if they were, if they were dehydrated. A lot of them did say that they drank tons of water. Always throughout their life, they drank tons of water, and I just don't. That kind of always surprised me. And I'm talking about, when I say tons of water, I'm talking about whatever a normal person would drink. They drank 2 to 3 times as much water, but constantly. People that were abducted. So let's see what else. Healing. Sorry, weightlessness, levitation. Yeah, seems like some of the people that are abducted also carry an ability to levitate. I don't know if that has anything to do with one thing or the other, but that came up. In my case, it came up, and apparently came up in 5 cases out of their 300, etc. Healing. That came up five again for the government side, and I can tell you that it seems like people that have been abducted, a lot of them can do healing. Now, I don't know which effect it is. It's something that being abducted helped them become healers, or healers naturally are open to abductions. Don't know, but it happens. Okay. Let's see what else. I think we got a couple more here. Okay. Ringing in the ears. Yeah, we've kind of talked about that. Ringing in the ears, or sound in your ears. Then there was the acclaimed ESP development. Now that's again another ability development. Again, I don't know if it's the person they're saying development in this case, but I've also found out that people, certain types of people, had this ESP or abilities before, and then they become abducted. So it seemed to work both ways. Let's just put it that way. The government is assuming that these people, because they were abducted, had these encounters, that they developed this. It could be, but I kind of think it's both ways. Let's see what else. Claimed implants. Okay. This is a low frequency on the government's part, only 3. I had, I usually ask people if they had implants or felt they had implants, and most of them, well, let me take most back. Okay, it isn't most, but it's probably 30% said that yes, they felt that at one time they maybe had something in their ear, or something between their toes, or between their hands, a little bump or something that felt hard, and then it was taken out, or something it was left, or something up in their nose cavity. A few of them actually had them fall out of the corner of their eye. It was just, I've seen quite a few implants or something, whatever they are. So they're real. There's no doubt they're real. So let's see what else. Itching. A lot of people. Well, I put 10% down, so it isn't a lot, but it was a low frequency over there, and I guess with mine it could have been up to 100 people or so had itching, extreme itching after a encounter. I don't know if it's because of the closeness to the aliens themselves. Maybe there's something that's given off. I don't really know, but a few of them actually just mentioned it. It wasn't on my list, my personal list to ask them, but people would bring up, because I'd ask them, what are some of the other things that you think has happened because of your encounters? So then they would, there's all kinds of things they bring up, etc. So, and let's see what else. Induced feeling of calm and serenity. Now, this is an interesting one. And yeah, I had some of the people that I talked to that were abducted, and I always get the impression it was calm and serene. They felt comfortable when it was certain groups of aliens. Some of the grays, and some of the Palladian types. They seem to be had a good ability of calming humans and keeping them happy and not getting them upset. Now, unlike another group called the reptilians and reptoids, and there's a bunch of those, they don't want to do that. They want to make you very fearful so they can extract as I've talked in other videos, so they can extract your emotional energy. So anyways, for now, that's it. I think this is some pretty incredible information that the government has released. It has confirmed a lot of things that people have been researching for many years, including myself. And I guess we'll keep on looking and see what's in this 1,500 pages. And I'll be interested. And if it's good enough to, maybe I'll do some more videos on it and give my impressions of it and compare it to what I've researched over the many, many years. So anyways, thanks a lot. If you like us. If you please subscribe, we need your subscriptions. And hey, happy trails. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.